Please note that this AI-generated podcast is intended solely for general learning and educational purposes. While we strive to ensure accuracy, the AI may occasionally produce errors or incomplete information. We strongly encourage you to consult qualified professionals and conduct your own due diligence before making any legal, financial, or business decisions based on the content presented here.
Bombard you with data reports, manuals, guides, all promising to make you better, faster, smarter.
It's a lot. Information overload is real.
Exactly. So our job here is to take that overwhelming stack of source material and really distill it. We want to give you the essential, actionable blueprint you need right now.
And today we're cutting through the noise in one of the areas we get asked about constantly. Mastering professional English communication. If you feel like your writing is, adequate but maybe not truly influential, or if you spend just way too much time worrying about where that comma goes.
Been there.
We all have.
Yeah.
This deep dive is your shortcut. We're basically extracting the core training manual, all the rules, the style guides, the cultural sensitivity checklists that move you from just being a competent writer to, well, a confident strategic communicator.
Especially on the global stage. That's the mission then. We've got this detailed professional English writing training manual right here. It seems to cover everything from the basic business case for clear writing all the way up to advanced cross-cultural stuff.
It's comprehensive.
Our job is to show you where the real time savers and, frankly, the reputation builders are hiding inside these pages. Okay, let's unpack this. Before we even get into the nuts and bolts, the grammar and style, we have to establish the stakes, right?
Absolutely.
What's the actual business cost of poor writing? Because this manual, it starts there. It positions strong writing as a critical business tool, not just some academic thing.
And that's the essential foundation. A lot of professionals, they might see improving their writing as a soft skill, kind of a nice to have. But when you actually look at the economics of communication, poor writing carries a real measurable cost. Think about wasted hours, misunderstood instructions, even damaged client relationships.
Wow, okay.
So the manual, it clearly defines how strong writing acts as a business tool. It breaks it down into 4 core pillars.
All right, let's take the first one. It's the bedrock, really. Strong writing builds credibility. It's actually kind of amazing how fast someone forms an opinion of your competence just from the first few sentences they read.
It's the ultimate nonverbal signal of competence, isn't it? Think of it like a quality control check before the reader even gets to your ideas.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, if an email is full of typos or the grammar's sloppy or the thoughts are all fragmented, the immediate assumption, often unconscious, is that the writer is, well, rushed, careless, maybe disorganized.
And that reflects on everything else.
Exactly. That negative impression transfers directly to how they perceive the quality of your work, your attention to detail, your overall trustworthiness. But a well-written document, it does the opposite. It instantly signals a professional, organized mind. And that builds social capital with your boss, your clients, everyone.
And that credibility, it flows right into the second pillar the manual talks about. Efficiency. Strong writing saves time. Not just your time, but maybe more importantly, the reader's time.
Oh, definitely the reader's time. We all know that corporate black hole of endless clarification emails, right?
Yes. What did you mean by this chain?
That black hole is where productivity and sometimes budgets just go to die. Studies show it. Ambiguity is probably the single biggest time sink in modern business. If your instruction or your proposal or your feedback is clear, concise, and structured right from the start, you just eliminate that whole painful cycle of back and forth.
So clarity is efficiency.
It absolutely is. It minimizes the need for follow-up calls, extra meetings, those repetitive questions like, wait, which quarter are these figures for again? It's not just polite. It saves real, tangible resources, time and money.
Okay, so pillar 3. This one feels like it affects the whole direction of a company sometimes. Strong writing improves decision-making. It's about the quality of the information leaders are actually using.
Absolute critical. Executive time is incredibly limited. Decision makers rely heavily on clear reports, summarized findings, actionable proposals. They need the bottom line fast. Now, if those source documents are poorly structured, if the key metric is buried deep on page 17, or the main conclusion is lost in all this dense academic language, the decision that comes out of it, it's likely to be delayed or flawed or based on just incomplete information.
Which can be disastrous.
It can. So accurate, well-structured reports, especially the ones that front-load the key takeaway, they fundamentally lead to better, more informed outcomes. You're essentially helping the executive mitigate risk by giving them maximum information density with minimum effort.
Makes sense. And the final pillar, the fourth one, feels more strategic. Strong writing strengthens relationships. This isn't just about being polite, is it? It's about managing professional respect.
It really demonstrates respect for the reader's time and, frankly, their intelligence.
Yeah.
When you take the care to make sure your tone is professional, not too demanding, not overly casual, you foster better collaboration.
Ah.
Think about giving difficult feedback, or making a sensitive request, or even communicating bad news. A measured, respectful, professional tone builds trust. It works with colleagues, with clients, with external stakeholders. You show you're approaching the interaction seriously and with consideration. And that's the foundation for any long-term professional partnership.
Okay, so those four pillars, credibility, efficiency, decision-making, and relationships, they really come together in this case study the manual provides. The email contrast. Let's start with the poor email, the kind we all dread getting. It says, hey guys, kind of behind schedule. We'll try to finish ASE.
Oh boy, yeah, that's basically a master class in how not to communicate professionally.
Right, hey guys, kinda.
Exactly. The language is unprofessional. Kind of behind is vague, avoids accountability. And the worst part, zero actionable information. What on earth does ASCP mean? Today, next week, next month?
It means nothing, really.
Yeah, precisely. And that lack of clarity, it just screams incompetence. It makes anyone receiving it, especially a client or a senior manager, instantly question the reliability of the whole team, the whole project. It destroys credibility and forces the reader to waste their own time chasing you down for clarification.
Okay, now let's look at the professional email revision. Big difference, right, from the subject line. Project update revised timeline. That's already helpful.
Huge difference. That subject line itself is an act of efficiency. You know immediately what it's about and that there's a change.
Then the email itself. Dear team, we are currently experiencing a delay due to unanticipated supplier material delays. The revised completion date is 15 October. We appreciate your patience and will send a detailed risk mitigation plan shortly.
See the difference? It's night and day. They established control. They identified a specific cause, supplier delays, which sounds external and understandable.
Right, not just we're behind.
Exactly. And they provided a concrete, measurable solution, October 15th. That shift from the vague, passive, we'll try to finish ASA, to the assertive, accountable. The revised completion date is 15 October. That demonstrates competence.
It manages expectations.
Perfectly. It manages expectations effectively. It strengthens internal trust because you're being transparent, and it allows everyone else to adjust their own plans based on actual facts, not just vague hopes.
That move from ambiguity to precision feels like that's the core skill we're really drilling down on here today.
It really is. If you master that, you're halfway there.
Okay, so we've established the why, the strategic importance. Now let's get into the actionable how. Let's talk about style. The manual frames professional style not as sounding like super academic or complicated,
No, not at all.
but purely about maximizing the reader's comprehension speed. It's really an efficiency checklist.
Exactly right. The Style Fundamentals checklist in the manual. It's
Yeah.
all designed to just remove friction points for the reader, make it easy for them.
So first up is clarity and simplicity.
Yeah, this means actively choosing clear, direct words. And, crucially, ruthlessly cutting out unnecessary wordiness. Verbosity is the enemy. Your goal should always be to convey your message in the fewest, most accessible words possible. Readers have limits, cognitive limits. Don't make them waste mental energy just trying to figure out what you mean.
And this leads to something concrete the manual suggests. The rule of conciseness. It recommends aiming for short sentences, ideally around 15 to 20 words. Why such a specific target? Can't complex ideas need longer sentences sometimes?
They can, yes, but those longer sentences need to be balanced with shorter ones. There's research on this sentence. Comprehension really starts to drop off significantly once you get past about 25 words.
Oh, okay.
And if you have sentence after sentence that's 30 plus words long, it just fatigues the reader very quickly. So aiming for that 15, 20 word average forces you, the writer, to distill one clear thought per sentence. It maintains a quicker, more digestible pace.
So if you do have a complex idea,
State the main point in a short sentence first. Then use the next sentence or two to add the nuance or explanation. Don't try to cram everything into one long, winding clause. Break it up.
got it. Which brings us to active voice preference. We hear this advice all the time. Use the active voice. Why is it so critical in professional writing? And are there any times when passive voice is actually better?
Okay, so active voice where the subject performs the action, like the team completed the report,
Mhm.
it's generally preferred because, well, it's punchier, it's more direct.
Mhm.
And it immediately establishes accountability, which is usually really important in business. You know, who did what.
Right. Clarity of responsibility.
Exactly. However, you raise a really important point. Passive voice isn't always wrong. It actually has its strategic uses.
Okay, this is where the nuance comes in. When would we consciously choose passive?
There are about 3 main professional exceptions, according to the manual and general best practice. First, when the action itself is way more important than who did it. You see this a lot in scientific or technical writing, like, the sample was heated to 100 degrees. Who heated it isn't the point.
Okay. Makes sense.
Second, sometimes for, let's say, political or diplomatic reasons. When you need to subtly deflect responsibility or generalize it, instead of saying, Jane missed the deadline, maybe you say the deadline was missed. It softens it, shifts the focus.
Interesting. Tactical.
It can be. And third, when the actor is either completely obvious or totally irrelevant, like the building was financed by a bond issue. We don't necessarily need to know the specific banker involved in that sentence, but outside of those specific strategic exceptions, active voice should be your default setting. It keeps things clear and moving.
That flexibility based on context is key. Okay, next up, jargon management. The professional world loves its acronyms and buzzwords, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
But the manual is pretty strict here. Avoid jargon unless it's clearly defined for that specific audience.
Yes. And think of jargon as technical shorthand. It's efficient only when everyone in the conversation shares that specialized language. Like using ROI within a finance team, everyone gets it. It's fast.
But the problem is when it leaks outside that group.
Exactly. Then it becomes gatekeeping language. It actually slows down communication. It confuses people. It alienates stakeholders who aren't in the know. It can make the writers seem like they're trying to sound impressive rather than actually communicate effectively.
And we see this perfectly in the manual's example of wordiness. That classic bureaucratic phrase, we're in the process of conducting an investigation into the matter.
It's just, it's bloat. It sounds like someone's stalling for time or trying to sound important.
Right.
The verb investigates already implies you're in the process of conducting an investigation.
Right.
So you strip away those unnecessary prepositional phrases, those nominalizations, tuning verbs into nouns, and the professional version is just clean and direct. We are investigating the matter.
Much better, faster, more decisive.
5 words shorter. And it feels immediate.
Okay, so that covers style. Now let's pivot to those essential grammar traps. These are the mistakes that even highly educated professionals can make. Maybe because they sound okay when we speak, but they don't pass the technical writing test.
Yeah, and these are the ones that can subtly undermine your credibility. Of course, you always need the basics, right? Every sentence needs a subject and a verb. Keep your tenses consistent, all that.
Standard stuff.
Standard, but needs checking. But the really high-value corrections, the ones this manual focuses on, often involve trickier things like agreement or punctuation that signals meaning, or those commonly confused words.
Let's talk about those confused words first. It's versus it's, effect versus effect. They seem so basic, but they pop up everywhere, probably because we type so fast.
They really do persist, and unfortunately, confusing them is one of those things that just instantly makes your writing look careless. It signals a lack of polish.
So the quick check.
For it's, the test is simple. It's always means it is or it has. If you can't substitute it is or it has into the sentence and have it make sense, then you need the possessive it's.
Okay.
And for affect, remember, affect is usually the verb, the action, to influence something. Effect is usually the noun, the result, the outcome. There are exceptions, but that covers 95% of professional use cases. Quick checks an editor or you can do in seconds.
Good reminders. And then, for global teams especially, the manual stresses spelling consistency. Pick a lane, British or American.
Absolutely non-negotiable. If you're writing for a British client or a UK office, you commit to organize with an S, color with a U. If it's for the US, it's organized with a Z, color with an O. Switching back and forth within the same document, it just looks sloppy, like it hasn't been proofread properly or there's no style guide.
Right. Suggests a lack of attention to detail. Now let's dive deep into this specific trap the manual highlights because it's relevant in any data-heavy field. The plural trap, especially with the word data. The incorrect example given is, the data is showing positive trends.
Yes. This one.
That sounds completely normal to me. I'd probably say that. Why is it technically incorrect in like a formal professional context?
It's so interesting because you're right. Common usage is definitely shifting. It's a living language thing. But historically, and this is the key in formal contexts, data is the plural form of the Latin word datum.
Datum, meaning like a single piece of information.
Exactly, a single point. So, strictly speaking, data refers to multiple points, making it a plural noun. And plural nouns require plural verbs.
So it should be, the data show positive trends.
Correct. The data show. Now, while everyday speech often treats data as a singular mass noun like information, many professional fields, particularly science, statistics, research, they often insist on the classical plural usage.
Why? Is it just tradition?
Partly, but it also signals precision. Adhering to data show is seen as a hallmark of technical rigor. When you're presenting important findings, high-stakes analysis, that perceived rigor matters. It subtly signals that you understand the nature of evidence.
Huh. So it's not just a fussy grammar rule, it's actually communicating something about your approach to the information itself. You're signaling domain expertise through grammar.
Precisely. It's a subtle marker of belonging and understanding within certain professional communities. Worth getting right if you're in one of those fields. Okay, so if grammar is kind of the microscopic lens for judging attention to detail, then formatting. That's the macroscopic lens. It's how readers judge your organization, your clarity of thought, even before they dig into the content.
That's interesting. So the presentation itself sends a message.
Absolutely. What's fascinating here is how much presentation communicates. A poorly formatted document, like to, dense blocks of text, inconsistent styles, it just signals chaos. It suggests a disorganized workflow before the reader has even processed the first sentence.
And we're really optimizing for the modern reader, aren't we? Someone who's almost always scanning first, not reading word for word from start to finish.
Exactly. You have to make your document scannable. That's paramount today.
So the manual gives guidelines for formatting for maximum readability. What are the key takeaways there?
Structure is number one. You absolutely must use headings and subheadings. And they need to be clear, descriptive, and visually distinct and consistent. They act like signposts, breaking up the text.
It's like an internal table of content.
Precisely. It lets the reader navigate quickly. They can jump straight to the section they need, like financial implications, without having to wade through, say, the methodology section if they don't need it right then.
And those visual breaks within sections are just as important, right? Like using lists and keeping paragraphs short.
Crucial. The manual is very clear. Use bullet points or numbered lists whenever you're presenting multiple related items or steps. It breaks up the density of prose. And keep paragraphs short, ideally just 3 to 5 sentences long. Each paragraph should really focus on only one or maybe two main ideas.
Makes it much easier to digest.
Way easier. And then there's visual consistency. This gets overlooked a lot, but it's profoundly important for professionalism. Stick to standard professional fonts the manual suggests. Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman, usually size 11 or 12.
Nothing too wild.
Definitely not. But more importantly, maintain consistency throughout the document. Same spacing, same way of doing headings, H1, H2, H3, same style for lists, all bullets or all numbers, consistent indentation. If your font size suddenly jumps or your list style changes randomly, it just looks incredibly unedited and unprofessional.
The manual talks about a before and after effect example for a report to show the impact of this. The before is just this big 2-page block of text. Sounds intimidating.
It's the kind of document nobody wants to read. It looks like a chore, and the transformation in the after example is radical just through formatting.
What did they do?
They took the exact same content but structured it logically. A short, clear introduction paragraph, then a detailed analysis section but broken up with clear subheadings, and using tables or charts to present the data visually.
Ah, getting data out of dense paragraphs.
Yes. And finally, a clear, probably bulleted recommendation section. That structural clarity alone changes everything. It transforms the document from this daunting block into a useful tool that guides the reader and suggests immediate action. It shows respect for their time, which, as we said, builds credibility.
Okay, so let's apply these formatting and style principles to the places we write most often now. Digital contexts. Email dominates, right? So we need to nail those email best practices.
Absolutely critical. The email checklist from the manual should basically be memorized. Number one, always start with a clear subject line. It needs to define the purpose and, if possible, the required action. Meeting request, report attached for review, urgent, project update.
So the reader can prioritize even before opening it.
Exactly. Then, use a professional greeting in closing. Avoid the overly casual, hey guys, or signing off with just cheers, unless you have a very established informal relationship. And keep the body short, structured, maybe use bullet points if needed, and focused on one main topic per email if possible. The goal is pure efficiency and rapid processing for the recipient.
We touched on that model email breakdown earlier, the request for feedback on draft report. Why was that structure so effective again?
That model is brilliant because it's ruthlessly focused on managing the workflow. The core message was something like, attached is the draft report. Please share your comments by Wednesday so we can finalize by Friday.
Very direct.
Direct, polite, but crucially, it sets two clear deadlines that are linked. The recipient knows what to do, review, when to do it by Wednesday, and why that deadline matters, so the final version can be ready by Friday. It anticipates the reader's questions and manages the process.
Makes sense. Now, for longer documents, reports, and proposals, the manual says the executive summary becomes absolutely mission critical here. It's the ultimate front-loading tool.
It's non-negotiable for any report over, say, a couple of pages. It's essentially the abstract for the business world.
Okay.
And it must use the inverted pyramid structure. You have to state the main conclusion, the most critical findings, and the key recommendation right up front, probably in the first paragraph, maybe even the first few sentences.
So if the busy executive reads nothing else,
Yeah.
they still get the absolute core message and know what action is needed. After that summary, the main body should highlight the findings, and this is where visual aids become crucial: tables, charts, graphs. They can summarize complex data far more effectively than dense text.
And the ending.
A report or proposal that doesn't end with clear, specific, actionable recommendations has basically failed. It needs to tell the reader what should happen next based on the analysis.
Okay, one more context. Social media like LinkedIn posts or maybe internal company blogs. How do we adapt? Do we just throw the rules out?
No, definitely not throw the rules out. But you adapt the tone slightly. You aim for a more conversational style to encourage engagement, but you absolutely must maintain professionalism. So still valuable content.
Yes. The content has to provide genuine value, cite data or evidence where appropriate, and avoid hype or overly casual slang. Engaging openers are good. Something like 3 strategies to improve hybrid teamwork gets attention. But the body of the post should still be structured clearly, probably using short paragraphs, maybe bullet points, just like you would in a more formal document. It's about being accessible and engaging, but without sacrificing the integrity of the information or your professional reputation.
All right, here's where things can get really intricate and maybe a bit nerve-wracking for people. Once you feel you've got a handle on grammar and formatting in your own context, the next big challenge is writing for a global audience. This means shedding a lot of linguistic habits we just take for granted.
This is so crucial today. I mean, most large organizations are multinational now. Effective cross-cultural communication isn't optional. It's essential for career growth. And the #1 guideline in the manual's cross-cultural writing section is crystal clear. Avoid idioms. Just avoid them.
Why are they so risky?
Because if you're communicating with anyone who isn't a native speaker of your specific English variant, or even sometimes native speakers from different regions, idioms are just a massive source of confusion. They slow things down, lead to misunderstandings, and can even cause embarrassment if misinterpreted.
The manual gives examples like ballpark figure or hit the ground running. Can you give us a couple more common ones we should probably strike from our global vocabulary?
Oh, absolutely. Things like low-hanging fruit that assumes everyone gets that specific metaphor. Or let's touch base. It's vague and can sound overly familiar in some cultures. Bite the bullet. Get your ducks in a row.
Yeah, okay, I see. They rely on shared cultural context.
Exactly. Non-native speakers often have to mentally translate idioms literally, which either makes no sense or gives completely the wrong meaning. Your goal in cross-cultural writing must always be literal, precise language, clarity over cleverness.
Beyond just colorful language, the manual talks about standardizing information to remove any possible ambiguity in global contexts. This feels like risk mitigation.
It is, absolutely. Think about dates. The simple ambiguity of numerical dates is a huge source of confusion, missed deadlines, project failures. If you write 070425, does that mean July 4th, like in the US?
Or April 7th, like in the UK and many other places.
Exactly. And in a high-stakes contract or a proposal, getting that wrong could be disastrous. Kill a deal, breach terms. The rule the manual gives is simple and safe. Write dates out in full. Use the month name, 7 April 2025 or April 7, 2025. Be unambiguous. Consistency and clarity are more important than saving a few characters here.
And the same logic applies to measurements, right? Metric versus imperial.
Yes, if you're writing for a global audience or even just an audience outside the US, the safest bet is to default to the metric system meters, kilograms, Celsius. Or provide both if you know your audience is mixed. Using only imperial units, feet, pounds, Fahrenheit, without considering the audience can cause confusion or require them to do extra work.
It's about showing consideration and preventing errors. Okay, now let's get into something even more subtle. Politeness levels. The manual says this is highly dependent on culture, affecting how direct or indirect we should be.
This is probably one of the trickiest areas. It taps into that whole concept of high context versus low context cultures.
Can you break that down quickly? Low context like the US or Germany tends to be more direct.
Generally, yes. In low context cultures, communication is expected to be explicit, clear, and efficient. The message is mostly in the words themselves. High context cultures, often found in Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, rely more on shared understanding, nonverbal cues, and the relationship. The message is understood through the context as much as the words.
So how does that practically change how you write, say, a professional email asking for something?
It can fundamentally change your opening, your phrasing, and your closing. In a low context culture like the US, you might get straight to the point after a brief pleasantry. Efficiency is valued. But in a high-context culture, like Japan or maybe parts of the Middle East, jumping straight into a request without sufficient warm-up, a polite opening, maybe acknowledging the relationship or showing concern, can be perceived as abrupt, rude, even disrespectful. Conversely, someone from a very direct culture might find the more indirect style, with lots of hedging, qualifiers, and lengthy preambles, common in some high-context styles, to be evasive, time-wasting, or lacking confidence.
So there's no single right way. The professional writer has to adapt.
You have to adapt. You need to be aware of your audience's likely cultural norms regarding directness. You might need to soften requests, use more polite framing. Would it be possible to? I was wondering. Or build more rapport before stating the core message, depending on who you're writing to. Sometimes professionalism demands blunt clarity. Other times it demands careful, indirect phrasing to maintain harmony or respect hierarchy.
That requires real awareness and effort. Okay, so knowing all this is one thing. How do we actually get better? Section 7 in the manual gives practical improvement strategies. How do we move from theory to actually internalizing this stuff?
It starts with practice, like any skill. Consistency is key. The manual suggests a really simple but powerful tactic, establishing a daily writing habit.
Like what? Journaling?
Could be, but specifically for professional skills, it suggests something like, every evening, write a concise 100-word summary of your day's work, or your top 3 decisions, or maybe a complex meeting you attended, just 100 words.
Why that specifically?
Because it forces you to practice distillation. You have to identify the core information and express it clearly and concisely under a constraint. Doing that daily builds the muscle for clarity and brevity.
I like that. Simple, actionable. And then there's the editing process. The manual stresses editing in layers. Why is that better than just reading it through once?
Because trying to catch everything, content logic, grammar mistakes, style issues, typos, formatting, all in one pass, it's just overwhelming, and you inevitably miss things. Your brain can't focus effectively on all those different levels simultaneously.
So break it down. What are the layers?
The manual suggests a 4-step process, done sequentially. First, review for content and structure. Is the core message accurate? Is the logic sound? Does the argument flow? Is it organized well? Big picture stuff.
Okay, step 1, content.
Step 2, review for grammar and mechanics. Now you zoom in. Check subject-verb agreement, tense consistency, punctuation, spelling, those tricky word pairs like it sits.
Got it. Grammar check.
Step 3, review for style and clarity. Are the sentences concise? Is it mostly active voice? Have you cut out jargon and unnecessary words? Is the tone appropriate?
Style check.
And finally, step 4, review for formatting and presentation. The visual sweep. Check headings, lists, font consistency, spacing, page numbers. Does it look professional and easy to read? By tackling these layers one by one, you apply focused attention, which makes your editing much more thorough and efficient.
That makes a lot of sense. We also need to involve others, right? The manual mentions utilizing peer feedback.
Hugely important. We are often blind to our own typos and awkward phrasing. Your brain knows what you meant to write, so it autocorrects as you read.
Yeah, I definitely do that.
Everyone does. A fresh pair of eyes, especially from a trusted colleague who understands the context and standards, will catch errors or unclear sentences that you've read over a dozen times and completely missed. It's a critical quality control step before sending anything important.
Good point. And the last couple of strategies are about active learning, reading models.
Yes, consciously study good examples. Find reports, proposals, emails, articles from leaders or publications in your field that you admire for their clarity and impact. Analyze how they structure their arguments, how they phrase things, how they present data. You're actively modeling success.
And finally, what about technology? Tool support. Things like Grammarly, Hemingway, Words Built-in Editor.
They're incredibly useful aids in the modern writing process. They can instantly catch many technical grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, passive voiceover use, even sentence complexity issues. Definitely use them.
But there's a but, isn't there?
There's a big but. The manual emphasizes strongly, and I completely agree, that the writer's judgment must always be the final authority. These tools are algorithms. They cannot understand nuance, tone, cultural context, irony, or the specific strategic purpose behind your word choices. Sometimes the error they flag is actually a deliberate stylistic choice. So use the tools as assistants, let them catch the obvious stuff, but never blindly accept every suggestion. You are still the writer. You make the final call. Okay, so if we try to tie all this together, connect it back to the bigger picture. All these principles, whether it's the seemingly picky data show rule or the broader advice on avoiding idioms cross-culturally, it all serves the same ultimate goals, increasing your influence and lowering communication risk.
Right. It's about being effective and safe.
Exactly. And the practice exercises and the answer key provided in this manual are great for synthesis. They really show the transformation needed to shift from casual or unclear language to a truly professional tone.
Let's look at a few of those key fixes from the manual's examples. First, the clarity fix. This one tackles that bureaucratic language we talked about. The original phrase was, "At this point in time, the team is in the process of developing a strategy." Feels very padded.
It's classic corporate filler, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just wastes the reader's time and sounds hesitant. The fix involves simplifying both parts. At this point in time just becomes now or can often be deleted entirely. And is in the process of developing is simply is developing.
So the fix is just,
The team is developing a strategy. Clean, direct, confident. That brevity signals efficiency and action.
much better. Okay, next, a grammar fix focusing on collective nouns, which can be tricky in formal documents. The incorrect sentence example was, "The committee have made their decision."
Ah, yes, this is a slightly more sophisticated point. In standard American business English, a collective noun like committee, team, or company is treated as singular when the group is acting as one single unified entity.
So one committee, one decision.
Exactly. Therefore, it takes a singular verb and singular pronouns. The correction is, the committee has made its decision. It's worth noting, British English is often more flexible and might allow the plural here if emphasizing individual members, but for U.S. business standard, singular is generally preferred for unity. Getting this right shows a high level of grammatical precision, important in legal or governance contexts.
Good distinction. Then there's the tone fix. This shows how to elevate informal language, especially when delivering potentially negative news. The informal version was, "Hey, just letting you know I can't make it to the meeting."
Yeah, that's way too casual for most professional settings, especially if it's a formal meeting where you're communicating upwards. The fix requires a complete overhaul of the tone.
What does a professional version look like?
Something like, "Dear team, please accept my apologies, but I regret that I will not be able to attend the meeting scheduled for date time. You need a formal address. Dear team, an expression of regret, I regret my apologies, and clear information. It respects the formality of the situation and the relationship, even if you know the people well."
Right. Maintains that professional distance and respect. Okay, one last fix example. The precision fix. This is about swapping vague, subjective words for objective facts, which is crucial for reports and analysis. The vague original was, "The report was kind of long and had a lot of stuff in it."
Sounds like something you'd overhear, not something you'd write in a professional summary. It's useless for decision-making.
So the fix.
Use objective metrics and specific descriptions. The improved version is, the report was 35 pages long and contained detailed financial analysis, including P&L statements and cash flow projections. You replace kind of long with a specific number, 35 pages, and a lot of stuff, with exactly what kind of stuff, detailed financial analysis, etc. Objective facts are the currency of business communication. Vague doesn't cut it.
Okay, so seeing those fixes helps. Now, to really solidify this, the manual ends with model document analysis, showing these rules applied in full documents. Let's quickly break down the formal proposal email model, the one for the renewable energy project.
Right, that model is excellent because it demonstrates purposeful structure from start to finish. It begins professionally. Dear Dr. Singh, formal address. The subject line is perfectly clear. Proposal submission. Renewable energy project. You know exactly what it is.
And the body.
It follows that inverted pyramid idea right away. The first paragraph basically says, here's the proposal you requested, and it outlines the project objectives, methodology, budget, and expected outcomes. It tells Dr. Singh exactly what she'll find inside. It's specific.
And the closing.
Crucially, it includes a clear call to action, but frames it politely, respecting the recipient's time and authority. I invite you to schedule a discussion at your convenience to review this proposal further. It proposes the next step without being demanding.
Very polished. And the other key model was the executive summary deep dive for a Q3 sales report. You said this is the ultimate example of front-loading.
Absolutely. This summary starts with the single most important piece of information, the bottom line. Q3 sales increased by 15% compared to Q2, driven primarily by strong northern regional demand. Bang. Key result and key driver right there in sentence 1.
No bearing the lead.
None at all. Then it briefly contextualizes, maybe he mentions a challenge like supply chain delays, but it doesn't dwell on problems in the summary. It pivots quickly to action.
The recommendations.
Yes, it ends with clear, numbered, or bulleted recommendations based on the findings. Something like recommendations. 1. Invest in onboarding 2 additional suppliers in the southern region. 2. Upgrade the inventory management system by Q1. 3. Negotiate fixed-term logistics contracts to mitigate price volatility. The executive reads that one paragraph and understands the situation, the key issue, and exactly what needs to be done next. They don't have to read the full 50-page report unless they need deeper detail.
That structure, bottom line first, then brief context, then clear, actionable recommendations that really feels like the holy grail for professional reporting. It turns data analysis into a practical guide for making decisions.
That's exactly what it is. It's about facilitating action. Hashtag tag outro.
So after all this, what does it all mean? We've kind of journeyed from understanding why professional communication is so strategic, how it builds credibility, all the way through mastering tricky grammar, like the data plural. We learned how smart formatting can transform a document from a wall of text into something scannable and useful. And we finished by touching on the really complex nuances of cross-cultural sensitivity and strategic politeness.
Yeah, and I think it really reinforces that final core message from the manual we looked at. Professional writing isn't just an art, it's also a discipline. It requires continuous practice, refinement, and really close attention to detail.
It's not just about being correct, is it?
Not just correct. It's about the ability to strategically structure your information so that your reader absorbs it almost instantly and understands exactly what action is needed. That discipline, that skill, it protects your professional reputation and ultimately it maximizes your influence.
The manual actually states the goal isn't just to be correct, but to be compelling and persuasive. That feels like a higher bar. It's the difference between writing something that's just acceptable versus writing something that actually moves the needle, that gets things done.
Exactly. Which leads us to maybe a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider as you go back to your own writing.
Okay.
How does mastering this clarity and structure actually change the nature of your persuasion? Think about it. If you move beyond just avoiding basic errors and you start consciously using meticulous formatting, those clear headings, the short sentences, the specific deadlines in your emails, not as just chores you have to do, but as strategic tools for influence, how might that shift your entire approach to communication?
Viewing formatting as persuasion.
So evaluate your next piece of written communication, whether it's a quick email update or a big report. Don't just check it for grammatical correctness. Ask yourself, what is the strategic impact I want this to have on the reader's thinking, on their behavior? And have I structured and formatted it to achieve that impact? That's the leap from competent to truly influential.